Dick Emery. Richard Gilbert Emery, February 19, 1915, January 2, 1983, was an English comedian and actor. Beginning on radio in the 1950s, a self-titled television series ran from 1963 to 1981. Life and career. Richard Gilbert Emery was born in University College Hospital, Bloomsbury, London. His parents were the comedy double act Callan and Emery. They took him on tour when he was only 3 weeks old and gave him the occasional turn on the stage throughout his childhood, which was always on the move and disrupted, creating problems for the future, but at least setting the scene for eventually going into show business himself. His parents split up when he was 8 and he chose to stay with his mother, who gave up show business. He tried a variety of jobs before the stage: mechanic, office boy, farmhand and driving instructor. During the Second World War he was called up to the RAF and rose to the rank of corporal. However, because of family problems, he returned to London, joining the chorus line of the Merry Widow at the Majestic Theatre, London. He was recruited by Ralph Reeder into the RAF gang show to entertain air and ground crew at bases in Great Britain. At this time he created Vera Thin, the force's sweetheart, loosely based on Vera Lynn, later saying, "I was better in drag than combat gear." After D-Day, his unit toured forward air bases. On leaving the RAF, he returned to the theatre as a comedian. He worked at the Windmill Theatre, though his name does not appear on the plaque commemorating the acts that played there. He toured his fledgling act around the United Kingdom. He also auditioned for various parts, and in 1952 he starred in a role in the 15-minute Radio Luxembourg series on Saturdays at 7 p.m. called Chance of a Lifetime. This was a quiz sponsored by Marshall Ward in which merchandise to the value of £30 was awarded to contestants. Other radio work around this time included several appearances on Workers' Playtime on the BBC, a morale-boosting show that had started during the war to entertain factory workers in their canteens. Emery also made a guest appearance on the popular BBC radio programme The Goon Show, replacing regular cast member Harry Seacombe when he was absent for one episode in 1957. During 1953 he briefly formed a double act with Charlie Drake. His television debut came in 1950 on The Centre Show on the BBC. Throughout the 1950s he appeared on programmes including Round the Bend, BBC, 1955-56 and Educating Archie, ITV, 1958-59, and appeared with his friend Tony Hancock in several episodes of The Tony Hancock Show, ITV, 1956, and Hancock's Half Hour, BBC, 1957. He enhanced his reputation on 2 series with former goon Michael Bentine, After Hours, ITV, 1958-59 and It's a Square World, BBC, 1960-64. His role as Private Chubby Catchpole in the final series of The Army Game, ITV 1960, led to an exclusive BBC contract, and the long-running The Dick Emery Show, BBC, 1963-81 began. The show involved Emery dressing up as various characters, a flamboyant cast of comic grotesques. These included the buck-toothed Church of England vicar, sex-starved, menopausal, man-eating spinster Hetty, and Clarence, an outrageously camp man who coined the catchphrase "Hello honky tonks." Other roles were gormless denim-clad bovver boy Gaylord, in a double act with his long-suffering father, played by several actors including Roy Kinnear, where, each week, he would mess up and utter the catchphrase "Dad, I think I got it wrong again." The crusty pensioner James Maynard Kitchener-Lampwick, College, a genteel tramp whose real name was Lancelot Orpington Penrose, and Mandy, a busty peroxide blonde whose catchphrase, "Ooh, you are awful, but I like you," given in response to a seemingly innocent remark made by her interviewer, played by Gordon Clyde, but perceived by her as ribald double entendre, preceded a hefty shove on the shoulder of the interviewer, and a prompt about-turn walk-off with the trip. Michael Grade said of it, "It was clever, pure vaudeville, in a television form." In a sporadic film career he made his debut in The Goons: The Case of the Mucky Knees Battle Horn, directed by Joseph Sterling, 1954. He also played bungling bank robber Boogie Bins in The Big Job, directed by Gerald Thomas, 1965, and was known for vocal talents as an array of characters including the nowhere man Jeremy Hillary Boob, the mayor of Pepperland, and Max, one of the Blue Meanies in the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, directed by George Dunning, 1968. Emery appeared in films including as Shingler in The Fast Lady, 1962, as Peter Sellers' neighbor in The Wrong Arm of the Law, as Harry in Baby Love, 1968, as Mr. Bateman in Loot, 1970, and Do. You Are Awful, 1972, in which he played many of the characters he had portrayed in his TV series. The plot of this comedy centered on Emery hunting down a bank account number. The digits of the number are tattooed on the bottoms of 4 young women. Emery has to see the girls naked, which requires disguises. One of the women is played by Liza Goddard. Emery also recorded several novelty records during his career, most notably If You Love Her, which reached number 32 in 1969, and You Are Awful, which just missed the top 40 in 1973. Other singles included A Cockney Christmas, 1962, You're the Only One, 1974, and Rocking Horse Cowboy, 1979. In 1979, Emery moved to ITV for 3 one-hour specials before returning to the BBC in 1980 and resuming The Dick Emery Show. By 1982, Emery was tiring of the format for his BBC series and wanted to do something different. Using a new format and character, Jewish private detective Bernie Weinstock, Emery had a new outlet, 2 series of comedy thrillers under the banner Emery Presents, BBC, 1982-83, Legacy of Murder and Jack of Diamonds. Personal life. Emery had a very difficult childhood initially, but following the departure of his father Laurie Howe, things settled down. He was devoted to his mother for most of his life and helped support her once he was able to work. This devotion could and did cause problems in his marriages. He was very keen on long legs and blondes and was often in the newspapers with beautiful women. He was in 6 long-term relationships, marrying 5 times, and also had numerous affairs throughout his life. At the beginning of the Second World War he married Joan, sometimes known as Zelda, Sainsbury, and had 1 son, Gilbert Richard. After the failure of that marriage, he wed Irene, Pip, and Cel, but the marriage barely lasted 6 months. While working in summer season in 1950, at the Winter Gardens in Ventnor on the Isle of Wight, he met Iris Margaret Tully, who was also in the show. At the end of the season, they returned to London and set up home together in Iris's flat in Shaftesbury Avenue. Iris changed her name to Emery by deed poll until 1955, a year after she had given birth to his second son, Nicholas William. She and Emery married in 1955. The marriage was a rocky one because Emery had several affairs while away on tour. He met the woman who became his 4th wife, Victoria Chambers, in the mid-1950s. He was torn between the 2 women, but in late 1958 he left Iris and moved to Thames Ditton in Surrey to set up home. In 1960, however, he returned to Iris and his son and moved them to Thames Ditton, but he could never settle, and in 1962 he left Iris for Victoria. Iris divorced him in 1964. By this time, he had set up home in Esher. Vicky bore him a son Michael and a daughter Eliza. His last wife was Josephine Blake, to whom he was still married at the time of his death, although he had left her to live with Fay Hillier, a showgirl, 30 years his junior. Outside show business, he enjoyed flying, and held a pilot's license from 1961 onwards. He also liked fast cars and motorcycles. He was a keen maker of scale models, and was president of the Airfix Modelers Club. He also wrote a review feature for Meccano magazine during 1971. While the public took him to heart, voting him BBC TV Personality of the Year in 1972, Emery suffered from severe stage fright and low self-esteem. He underwent psychoanalysis and hypnosis, and took sedatives to try to cure the problems. He had 4 children, Gilbert, Nicholas, Michael, and Eliza, and was the half-brother of actress Anne Emery. Death. In December 1982, Emery was rushed to a London hospital with severe chest pains. He died at the hospital from cardiorespiratory failure on January 2, 1983 at the age of 67. Selected filmography. Film. Television.